Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And today we are being joined by the Destination Fear team: Dakota, Alex, Tanner, and Chelsea. Season 4 of Destination Fear is premiering Friday, November 25th on the Travel Channel and streaming on Discovery Plus. I want to welcome you all. How's everybody doing today?
Doing great.
Doing
Doing
good.
great.
You guys are now. It's only season 4. For me, it feels like it should be season 12 already.
Right?
I know it's hard to believe it's only been 4 seasons, and so much has been packed into those 4 seasons. So Dakota, let's get started with you. The season premiere, you bring the team to the Crescent Sanatorium slash prison slash a whole bunch of other things. It's this huge complex in the middle of Pennsylvania. Why did you select Crescent to kick off season 4?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I hadn't even heard about Crescent until a little over a year ago. And I mean, when I heard the name Crescent Sanatorium and Prison, I was so interested. And even when I started the research and kind of the approval process of getting to go there, I still didn't believe it was as big as it was and it was as cool as it was. It wasn't until getting there that we realized, I mean, truthfully, you'll see, I made us spend 2 nights there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad I did that because night one is terrifying, but night two is an actual horror movie. It's so scary. And I'm kind of bummed I didn't like, I was downplaying it even in my head because we got there. And what I realized when we were there, like, I could have kept us here for the entire season. It's
Yeah.
so big. But yeah, it was the size and the history. And on top of being a sanatorium, it was a prison where Joseph Callinger, one of the
Mm-hmm.
worst killers in our country, died. I mean, he died. We got to sit in the cell he died in, and it was just unreal. It was like a paranormal trifecta.
Absolutely. Now, Alex, I gotta ask you, on the first night, the majority of the attention seemed to be focused on you. Uh, that changes on the second night, but on the first night, it really appears you were the one that was being targeted, for lack of a better word. When that is happening, when you become the center of an energy entity's attention, tell us what goes through your head.
I mean, first of all, I go, why me? Why is it me? Why not one of these guys? Dakota's probably the one out there taunting the spirits to their presence on. Why am I being targeted? Uh, but specifically at Crescent, Dakota drops us off blindfolded right away. So we have no idea where we're at. And I was in the children's ward, and I didn't know I was being targeted really. And up until later that night when we heard the similar knock that I made, I mean, I did that experiment up on the second floor where I tried to get something to repeat knocking on a door like I did. And nothing happened while I was there. But then as a group, we heard that exact same knock, and I pointed that out to
Mhm.
everyone. And for me, that was a little unsettling because now I know something has been following me and watching me the entire night that we have been here.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's a little creepier when you figure something out like that, where you go, oh, something has been watching me this entire time. I thought I was pretty safe.
Chelsea, we got to talk about that creepy music box. Oh my God. Now, that thing is scary when you're the one setting it off, okay? Now,
Right.
imagine it being packed away with the rest of the gear in a suitcase, and you're hearing this throughout the whole complex. Uh, oh my God. What was running through your mind when that noise was repeating itself?
So, like you said, the music box alone, terrifying. But having this common theme of the music box going off in random parts of the complex it actually felt like a nightmare. Like if you could have a nightmare with the music box and just merge it into one, that's exactly what it would have been, to be honest with you. It's a really scary sound.
I can imagine, like I said, just listening to that when you know you're the one setting it off is just creepy enough. Now, Tanner, things like Dakota said, things change on the second night. The attention shifts from Alex over to you. And I think you guys did not realize it at the time, but you caught some of the best evidence that you didn't even know about, okay? You're sitting alone in the hallway. Anyone who's worked with cameras know that if a mic goes bad, you either get static or it just dies. What happened was your sound slowly faded away, and it stayed muted until you slowly walked away, and then it slowly started to come back on, like you were in this vortex bubble that just killed all audio. What was your reaction when you saw that footage, when you reviewed it?
So that's a perfect way to ask that, is because I had no idea what was happening in the time, because I think the audio is perfectly fine. I'm seeing the levels going. Like, I don't know what's really happening. But when I was down in that basement, I was freaking out. I have no idea what the noises are happening, what's going on. I'm just like, something doesn't feel right. I gotta get out of here. And then once Dakota was just like, yo, because Dakota edits the overnights, he's like, dude, you gotta come here. You gotta like just watch this. So like presses play. I watch it, and exactly that is like when the audio dies, and then I start leaving the building, and it's like slowly coming back to normal. That's when I was just like, okay, there was definitely something happening there. There's definitely something that was like messing with my equipment, and it was just bone chilling, because it reminded me of like the Blair Witch Project
Yeah.
almost, and where it's just like this weird thing that's happening to you, but you don't know it's happening to you.
Exactly. Now, there are many different ways you can interpret that. For me, I interpreted it as, you know what, something wanted to communicate with you and it did not want to be recorded. How did you interpret it?
That's words out of my mouth. That's exactly how I felt. Because a lot of times when we go there, like, or go to these places, our equipment and our cameras get messed up, or the batteries will get drained in our equipment, and that's, to me, something that's going like, hey, like, I'm trying to show you that I'm here, but I don't want this recorded. I don't want this being like people to see this. Like, this is just between me and you.
Yeah.
And a bit more personal that way, and it's also a little bit more scary, I think, when they have that knowledge and that power to mess with your equipment in that sense.
Now, since you didn't know the audio was cutting out, what was the thing that pushed you over the cliff to leave that hallway?
So I started hearing just noises behind me. I grabbed my camera to like just look, because we don't have flashlights this season. So now, like, I'm just in the pitch black. So I grabbed my camera to look around, and I'm like, okay, there's something happening back here. I don't know what's going on, but I want to make sure, like, that I feel safe about being down here by myself. And then all of a sudden I just heard this extremely loud noise. And I was just like, nope, I don't feel safe anymore. I got to get out. And that was, to me, like a warning sign, like, hey, like, this is my area. You're not allowed here.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you do afterwards is, I mean, there's no doubt you spend the night outside. I mean, you clearly felt in danger. Now, Dakota, when you arrived at Crescent, like Chelsea said, you blindfolded everyone. Did you have expectations, preconceived notions of what you thought might happen, or was it just an experiment to see what is, if anything, is going to happen when you blindfolded them?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, the reason for blindfolding them was in theme with the new road trip of the darkness, and I wanted to start off at a complete like disadvantage for everyone. So yeah, I blindfolded them, dropped them off in their own areas. Tanner was in his own building, Alex was in his own building, Chelsea was in the tunnel. I think the only expectation I had was that this is going to be an interesting road trip because I'm starting off on a target on my head. But I had heard about the mimic, the spirit that mimics you, right? I did not think for a second that would become our focus for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
It was unreal because there's all these other creepy stories there too. Like the mimic it's a fascinating story that there's a spirit there that mimics voices and actions. But we did not think it would get to the point where it was mimicking our gear that we didn't even have, gear that we hadn't used for hours, that was packed away.
Yeah.
Just so dang creepy. So no, like my expectations were I was just expecting for everyone to hate me, really, and that's about it.
So Chelsea, The tunnel. Your brother was. Did you do something to him when he was younger that he was looking for revenge?
Isn't that so messed up?
That is really messed up. He puts you in the tunnel that connects all the buildings in the dark. I was watching and I'm like, damn, dude, that's messed up. So when you pulled that blindfold off and you realized sort of where you were, what ran through your head?
So, well, for starters, when you ever start a road trip, like the first location, like it has been a long time since we filmed like the last season. So like every time we start a new road trip, there's like rust that I have to get off. That's like, I'm so terrified already. So the fact that Dakota knows this, okay?
Didn't know that. What are you talking about? No.
So, you know, it was completely, it didn't shock me that he did it, to be honest. But it was definitely shocking to be in the tunnels that early on in the game. But when I was sitting down there, I'm like, you know, the types of acoustics, because you really only are basing your sense, like the only senses you have is feel, and you're obviously not tasting, so you're just you're hearing everything. And you know, I'm like, I just felt very much like so echoey. I'm like, I better not be in a dungeon, but it totally feels like a dungeon, and because I've been there before. But those tunnels are freaky.
Yeah.
Like so scary, and they go on for a long time. Like you were saying, they connect
all the
buildings,
and that's where you guys kept hearing that music box just unexplainably go off. Alex, before you got involved with Destination Fear, I know you guys are all old-time friends, but what were your views on the paranormal, and what are they now after shooting 4 seasons of this show?
So we, like you said, we've been lifelong friends. We used to go to haunted abandoned buildings when we were in high school. We would just get in a car and drive there and unofficially invite ourselves in to those locations. And I got to tell you, we never made it onto any other floor than the first floor. We would out scream, just scared, even though nothing happened yet. And I had things happen in my house. I experienced things happening at the Laden's house. So I wouldn't say that I've always been this hardcore believer that I am today, but I was more of a skeptic before I started than I am now, definitely. I mean, when you go to the amount of places that we've been to and experience the things that we have, you can't not be a believer. And so my views have definitely changed quite a bit, but I've always had that curiosity about the paranormal.
Yeah, there's only so much you can just explain away. After a while, you just got to throw your hands up in the air. Chelsea, you're the older sister, so how did you get involved in the paranormal? We know Dakota's history goes way back with Zach and Ghost Adventures. How were you drawn into this world?
So actually all 4 of us, the common tie of something that we all did together, and I was part of this exploration, was we all explored haunted buildings when we were younger. Tanner, I've known Tanner since he was born. Mm-hmm. Our families are really close, and I've known him since he was born. Dakota, obviously, too. Alex, next door neighbor. And this is what we did on the weekends. Like, this is the one thing that we all had common ground with, that I was part of that group. And of course, things have shifted over the past, decade plus. Like, the things have gotten a lot more intense, but I was right there with them, screaming and running away from all these scary buildings.
And it must be really great that the things you guys did as kids, now it's become like a job and you're getting paid to do what you love. Tanner, do you enjoy pushing those boundaries, trying new investigative techniques, or somewhere deep inside you, do you feel there's a line that should not be crossed?
Definitely. I like pushing the limits and how far we can go. I like seeing when everyone gets scared. There's a reason why I pick certain locations, because I know people are a little bit more scared of jails and hospitals and stuff like that. But yeah, there is a limit that we've all kind of talked about that we don't want to cross. I mean, like, there's no part of us that wants to do like a seance or, you know, mess around with Ouija boards or anything like that. Like, we kind of just want to like let that be its thing. But when it comes to like pushing the limits, I like to, but it's very reluctantly sometimes. There's a lot of times where I'm just like, oh yeah, this would be really good if I like walked down the hallway and like figured out what that noise was. Or I could just pretend it didn't happen and sit right here and just wait for the sun to come up. And there's been I've done both of those.
Absolutely. Now, Chelsea, you are a huge fan favorite, and I find it kind of funny when the pre-interviews that you do with other people that have had experience in whatever location you're at, sometimes they express concern for you particularly. I think you're one of the strongest members of this group. And has this...
I don't know about that.
Has this journey helped you conquer a lot of your fears?
To be honest, like, my fear for the paranormal remains, but I think I do have more confidence in what I can do versus 5 years ago. I would have put $100,000 if you bet me that I would never do this for a living. So it just shows that even people who are really scared can do things that they didn't think they could do. So I think it's fair to say that the fear is still there, but the ability to say yes and we'll see what happens is has changed for me for sure.
And that is really shown when Dakota and Tanner were on last time. It was to promote that beginning of the journey before Destination Fear ever coalesced, and you left because you couldn't take it. And we see you now and how far you've come, and you've become a very strong person. Now, Dakota, we only have time for one more question. What can we expect from season 4 of Destination Fear? Are you guys going to push new boundaries, new locations, try new stuff? What can the people expect?
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said. This season, I took away the flashlights from the very beginning. So every time we were alone, there are no flashlights. So this was the first time for us, and that alone amplified the fear and made it the most terrifying road trip. We found some new locations, several new locations that have never been featured on TV before, and that's something we take a lot of pride in. And I think too, like I'm a fan of all of us. I get to edit the show, so I'm a fan of everyone here, and I feel like this season, like, everyone really shines. Like, we just got into the pocket and like our personalities when we're not in the haunted buildings, even like in the daytime stuff, like we just really shined and I felt like I'm like really sitting there watching what I see when we all hang out and just chill and talk. And there's just like, everyone shines. It's such a good season. And I don't know though, there's also new equipment though this season, and that new equipment definitely brought that fear level there. I mean, we introduced the enhanced recorder, which is a recording device that when you have it in your ears, you can hear a pin drop. It's picking up so much noise. So that paired with no flashlight is kind of like terrifying. Yeah. And we did a lot of that this season.
And we saw Chelsea do it while sleeping in that chapel in this episode where it really... And who was it? It was Alex. You played that trick on her, was it? Or was it Tanner?
Yeah, Alex checked in on her.
Alex checked in on you with the mic because that was so mean. And he was laughing his ass off, too. Now, Alex.
Those walkie checks.
Now,
it was only fair.
Dakota, with these three and what you've put him through, Alex, is there some kind of behind-the-scenes way that you guys are conspiring to get back at Dakota at some point in time?
You better not.
No.
Text chain going on, and we talk behind the scenes, Tanner, Chelsea, and I, and let's just say if we get picked up for another season 5, hopefully, knock on wood, we do. There's going to be some payback coming for Dakota big time.
Can't wait to see it.
It's funny because I already considered that the next season there's going to be no shoes, or you have to cut your hands off too. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's the new rules. So
Oh yeah. Good.
He tries to take it to the next level every season. Guys, season 4 of Destination Fear premieres Friday, November 25th on the Travel Channel and streaming on Discovery Plus. The first 2 episodes that I saw were amazing, great. I'm really excited for the rest of the season. I want to thank our guests, Dakota, Laden, Chelsea Laden, Alex Schroeder, and Tanner Wiseman. You guys are great. Keep up the great work. I want to thank our audience, those of you who are tuning in live and those of you who will be watching this later on. On behalf of myself and the Destination Fear team, stay safe and stay walking. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.